today as we explore the alchemy of karma and what karma really teaches us. I share these reflections from my own lived experience, from the recent storms that have unfolded, not directly within my life, yet still around it. The threads of toxic drama, addiction, and projection seem to weave themselves through timelines I am somehow connected to, appearing again and again, as if life itself is reminding me of lessons I once learned. It is with compassion and not judgment that I offer these words for those with eyes to see and ears to hear, who understand that what unfolds outside of us often speaks of what humanity is healing within. There exists a sacred law that governs all movement in the universe, the law of cause and effect. Nothing happens in isolation. Every action, every thought, and intention ripples through the unseen, returning eventually to the one who set it in motion. This return is not punishment, but is balance. It is life's way of restoring harmony where distortion once lived. When the heart acts from fear, control, or denial, those vibrations must one day meet their reflection. The universe is a perfect mirror. He gives back to each being the frequency they have created. Thus, when one lives in deception, they attract deceivers. When one manipulates, they find themselves being manipulated. When one refuses to see their own darkness, the world kindly provides a mirror in which it becomes undeniable. This is the justice of spirit, gentle, relentless, and exact. It brings to mind the old story of Narcissus, the one who fell in love with his own reflection, unable to see what he adored was not real, but a shadow of his own image. In the deeper esoteric sense, this myth is not about vanity, but about spiritual blindness. When consciousness turns entirely inward, seeing only itself and never the life around it, it becomes trapped within its own illusion. Karma then becomes the water's surface, reflecting every acknowledged truth until the soul finally looks deeply enough to recognize itself beyond form. The tragedy of Narcissus is not that he loved himself too much, but that he could not love beyond himself. These patterns often play out through relationships. Souls bound by unresolved lessons find each other like magnets, circling the same pain until awareness breaks the loop. Addiction, narcissism, and emotional abuse are not random. They are expressions of souls asleep to their own divinity, acting from trauma instead of wisdom. And yet, every repetition carries within it the seed of awakening. What repeats reveals. What hurts teaches. When people refuse to confront the truth within themselves, karma intervenes through experience. They meet others who embody their shadow, who force them to face what they have denied. In this way, life becomes the great teacher, using every circumstance to guide the soul toward its own healing. The storm is never the enemy. It is the mirror in motion. There is also a quiet teaching here that not every battle needs to be fought on the surface. The one who sees clearly no longer seeks revenge or validation. They stand still and allow the law to work through time. Harassment, gossip, or cruelty from those trapped in their own karmic storms can sting, yes, but they are only echoes and not destinies. Their power dissolves in the presence of understanding. True healing begins when one refuses to return the energy of harm. When forgiveness, not as weakness but as awareness, takes root, the cycle begins to dissolve. To forgive is not to forget or to excuse. It is to release oneself from the gravitational pull of pain. It is to say, I see what this was meant to teach me, and I choose to rise above it. In that moment, karma transforms into grace. There is an ancient wisdom in the knowing that love, pure, detached, and unwavering, is the ultimate transmuter. It was this energy that once turned shadow into devotion, sin into sanctity, and brokenness into wholeness. The heart that loves without needing to possess, that blesses even what it must leave behind, becomes untouchable to lower vibrational forces. That is the alchemy of spirit, to stand within chaos and still radiate its light. When the wheel finally slows and the karmic dust settles, what remains is not bitterness but clarity. You begin to see how every betrayal has freed you, how every dismissal refined your intuition, and how every storm was guiding you back to yourself. The drama fades, but the wisdom stays. Peace no longer depends on others changing. It comes from your own alignment with your own truth. And so the story ends not in vengeance, but in revelation. The hunter and the hunted dissolve, for they were always reflections of the same lesson. The wheel turns, the balance restores, and those who have walked through the fire emerge luminous, not because they escaped pain, but because they transmuted it into understanding. May those who find these words remember that nothing is ever wasted. Every shadow has a purpose. Every ending carries the seed of awakening. And the soul that learns to see through the eyes of compassion becomes free from the will, walking in quiet grace, anchored in peace, and radiant with the wisdom of one who has finally remembered who they truly are. May the turning of the wheel be gentle for those who still sleep with its own motion. May every heart that suffers come to see that pain is not the enemy, but the teacher of light. May every trauma reveal its wisdom, every ending its quiet birth. When the mirror finally clears and the soul remembers its own reflection in all things, may peace rise like dawn within the heart. And may love, the purest alchemist of all, transmute every shadow into understanding until only truth remains, still, radiant, and eternal. And so it is.